Welcome back to American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers with Heather Childers. NFL wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, Cole Beasley, taking a stand against the league's new vaccination protocols. The league recently modified their COVID-19 guidelines for the upcoming preseason, and there are quite a few notable differences between the two groups. The rules for unvaccinated athletes, take a look at this, includes being tested for COVID-19 every day, wearing masks at club facilities, not being allowed to use the team sauna, no leaving the team hotel, and they're not allowed to eat alongside their vaccinated teammates. Vaccinated athletes are not subject to any of these restrictions, raising questions about medical segregation, of course. Can we get his tweet, by the way, from Cole Beasley? Here's what he had to say. He says he has no plans to get the shot, and no amount of money or public pressure is going to convince him otherwise, saying in part, my way of living and my values are more important to me than a dollar, suggesting the new rules may force him toward an early retirement. So, Jennifer, what's your response to this?
Well, my first response reading this was, good for him. It's his body. It's his choice. And if he doesn't want to be involved in a medical trial that doesn't end until 2023, then that's great. And he should be, he's one that said, and also in his tweet, he said that he was speaking on behalf of other people that are afraid to come forward. So there is a lot of pressure on one side to get the vaccine. I'm glad he's standing up. And I don't think that this information should be public. But I'm glad he took a stance and saying what he was going to do. Yeah.
Ford, your thoughts?
Well, look, you know me, I'm always on the side of individual liberties. And while I am someone who's been vaccinated, I absolutely stand up for Cole Beasley's rights. But let me say this, it's quite clear what the NFL is trying to do here. They're trying to make it so difficult for unvaccinated players that they essentially submit and get the vaccination. They're not basically mandating it, but they're making sure that your life's a living hell until you get it. And look, Cole Beasley's absolutely right. He probably shares a view that probably 40 to 60% of the players in the league share, but because of different contracts, endorsements, etc., they're not going to go out and speak against the machine and the money that's coming from the NFL. So Cole Beasley, in this case, is going to be the person who does it on their behalf. I'll say this, I hope he stays healthy for his sake, because the Buffalo Bills got a pretty potent offense.
The one thing I do wonder, Heather, is who's at risk if you don't get the vaccination? Or if I mean, he's deciding, I feel like the NFL, these are grown men playing a grown man's game, and if they want to take the risk to get sick, that's okay, right? Unless the team feels like they stand to lose a lot of money if the timing is wrong.
Yeah, I think that perhaps some of the teams are more concerned about how they look politically than the individual players, because don't these players take a risk every single time they go out on a given Sunday and play the game?
Yeah.
And I think that what we didn't mention at the very intro of that is that the first indication, the first fine can be up to $50,000 for the first violation.
And even for those guys, that's a lot of money.
And he's willing to pay that fine, and then also saying that perhaps this will run him out of the game, but he's willing to do that to stand up for himself and his family because he doesn't want to take the vaccine.
Yeah. Melanie, is this about a political position the league or the teams are taking?
Oh, I'm sure it's about a political position. The only thing that I kind of disagree with the player is not following the rules. Like, I feel like if he's not going to take the vaccine, then he should go ahead and follow the rules. And if he doesn't want to follow the rules, then he probably should go ahead and quit. In New Jersey, if you're not vaccinated, then you're supposed to wear your mask. I'm not vaccinated. I wear my mask all the time. And I'm probably like one of the few people, a lot of times I'm the only person wearing a mask wherever I go. And I'm fine with that. I think you should follow the rules, whatever they are. I'm not about it being political. I'm about being perfectly safe. So I think that if your job requires you to follow certain rules, if you're not vaccinated, you should follow those rules.
Yeah.
Or you should find a different job.
And I think what he's saying is he's willing to follow those rules. He's willing to pay the $50,000 fine for the first violation, the first time around. Another good point I thought that he made in his statement was that he's not using meds to treat a broken leg that isn't broken. So why would he be using meds to treat COVID that he doesn't think that he, I guess, is more inclined to get than, you know, something else?
I guess I look at this just a little differently. I feel like it's all out there. We know what's available. You can get the vaccine if you want it. You don't have to get the vaccine. I think what Melanie is saying is then follow the rules. I don't like the rules. I can understand them even wanting to break the rules just to push the system and force them to realize they're creating two levels of citizens, if you will. So I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with those onerous rules against somebody simply because they choose to go through the risk of getting sick and possibly very sick. Right. Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I don't want to get into the issue of vaccine passports, but they are trying to start segregating people in different ways with this vaccine, and it's really unfortunate. Maybe he has underlying medical conditions. Maybe he has blood clots. Maybe he had COVID already and he has the antibodies. There's a million different reasons why he's choosing not to take the vaccine. But I do agree with Melanie. The rules suck, and he's going to have to follow them if he wants to stay in it. But I like the fact that he's standing up and saying, "But I'm willing to retire early if need be." I just think he's really a strong guy for coming out and saying that. I mean, kudos to him. I might watch the Buffalo Bills this year for the first time.
I was going to say more players like him may be why more people might be watching the NFL this year.
Right.
Let me throw in one curveball here, guys, and that is that DeMarcus Smith, who's head of the NFL Players Association, if these penalties get too onerous, we know in week one we're going to be in court. And frankly, Cole Beasley could actually, because he's part of an oligopoly as an NFL player represented by a union, and he has stronger civil rights with his employer than, say, an at-risk or an at-will employee has with a traditional employer. If he wins this case, okay, or some other player wins this case against the NFL, trust me, you're going to have people going crazy in the streets in terms of pushing back against their own employer.
Yeah.
So he could be a trendsetter here.
Ford, you're still, I notice, despite everything that's happened, you're still in your spaceship.
I am in my spaceship. You know, I'm going to get a new backdrop soon, just for you, Bob.
Oh, no,
I like the backdrop.
There have to be other spaceships. I mean, whoever sells spaceships, I mean, they have to have other versions of the spaceships.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make a European studio thing. You know how, like, if you call it BBC or Sky, how they have that backdrop?
Looks like a sauna or a spa or something, but okay, we'll leave that there before we get in trouble, wherever I was going with that. Thank you, panel. Coming up, is our American flag divisive? Well, according to a well-known musical artist, it is, and she's calling on efforts to change it entirely. We'll be talking about that next when American Agenda continues.